Hi there, I've worked with a lot of channelists channeling non-physical collective consciousness group, but my favorite is working with Gary Bodley channeling the Joshua group. They teach humans how to play this game perfectly. You'll understand after watching this video. You're gonna love it.
We are thrilled to be here.
Hi, Joshua.
We would like to start today by bringing you to the highest perspective that you can believe. This journey is all enabled by choosing the higher perspective. That perspective is your choice. That's your free will to choose your perspective, to realize when you've dropped your perspective, to move to the highest perspective within the limits of your belief, to understand that there is nothing serious going on here, that there is no need to do anything differently than you're doing it, to move with grace and ease and fun and joy without needing to change anything about anything, including yourself. To exist in the fullest version of yourself is just one way to explore physical reality. Tends to be the most fun way, the most interesting way, the way that leads to the highest manifestation of your pre-birth intentions. But none of it is serious. And this ride that you're on is but a blink of an eye. When you return to the non-physical, you'll realize this. So the highest perspective is everything is right. There is no wrong anywhere in the universe. There is nothing you need to change about anything since everything is perfect. You cannot see the perfection so easily within this illusion of separation. But if you look wide enough, broad enough, far enough out, you can see perfection in the system. And when you see perfection in the system, you can notice the little hints that you've left for yourself, the little clues, the little synchronicities, the strange coincidences. You can also see that you would not change anything, not in the past, not in the present, not in the future. And so when you bump up against anything you'd like to change, whether that's politics or society or anything that's out there, realize it's all in balance. And balance here is the key. Because without that, there can't be this. Without this, there can't be that. And you want it all. So your role is not to change anything. You are part of that balance. You have shifted from one side of a polarity to another side of the polarity because this is where you shine. This is where your power is. This is where the fun is. It's much more fun now. So fun would be a high perspective. Laughter would be a high perspective. Joy would be a high perspective. Calm, ease, peace, neutrality, knowing everything is right, is the highest perspective. In the center of that polarity is oneness. The ends of the polarity is separation. If you're on one side of a polarity, you feel more separated from those on the other side of that polarity. But if you exist in the middle without needing to change anything, you exist in a state of oneness. And this is something that you can think about whenever your perspective dips a bit. You're just realizing you're moving to a side of a polarity that increases the illusion of separation. You are tipping the scales, so to speak, so that they're not imbalanced. If you can imagine being at the center of the polarity, you could imagine the scales being balanced perfectly. And so this is a concept that you can consider here is a balancing of scales. Not that you move to one side to balance it. It's that you stay in the center as much as you can. And just as if you were to put a ruler on your finger would be perfectly centered on that ruler, balancing it perfectly. If it tips to the side one way, you do not need to move. It'll rebalance itself without you doing anything. Your focus is keeping your finger on the center of that ruler, not to change anything, not to say anything, but to keep your focus in that middle. From that focus, you'll receive inspiration, and the inspiration is what will balance it. You see? If you can get out of the way of having to say something or having to put forward your opinion or having to change the mind of another in order to balance what you see as out of whack, it's going to come from a fear state of being. It's going to become an urge to change the imbalance that you perceive. Yet that balance is directed by a force that's larger than the universe. So all your focus of and all the individual focus of those who are operating from a high perspective is to maintain their focus on the center of that polarity, knowing that everything else will take care of itself. And with that, we'd like to talk to you about anything you'd like to talk about. Where would you like to start?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys. You guys are my favorite non-physical collective consciousness. So I just think you guys are great. So the first question I have is that I know that Joshua, it's a council, and I know all the teachings and what you guys do is terrific. In a different reading from Christie and White Light, they said that I also sit on councils on different dimensions and densities. Can you tell me about those councils and what they do?
We will say that, as far as you could understand it from your human perspective, they maintain the highest perspective that they can believe. They are not in an illusion of separation as deeply as this. They cannot perceive or put themselves in your shoes to understand what humans are perceiving. And so they set you forth to have this experience to come from great suffering, great injustice, great inequity of all sorts. The family, the culture, the sexuality,
Yeah.
the intellect, as opposed to the heart. You are exploring it all. You have explored one end of that polarity and have come to explore the other end. This is a massive shift in perspective over one lifetime.
Yeah.
In order for you to gain an appreciation for the depth of this illusion of separation, so that you can go back and you can speak as one who has lived in human shoes from their perspective. Because without understanding this illusion, those who have not experienced it before can't quite imagine what it's like. And so there's a lot of inconsistencies within all the varying levels of the illusion of separation in all the societies and cultures and races and species throughout the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to come in so that you could understand the deepest one at a level that would allow you to make sense of the varying degrees of separation in all physical realities.
Mm-hmm.
In generally other physical realities, there is an idea of other, but there's no forgetting who you are to that extent or believing that you are indeed separate.
Mm-hmm. Is it victimhood? Because that's one of the major shifts that I got is that I'm, no longer see myself as a victim. It's like I'm the creator. On other planets, do they see themselves as victims?
There is no way to see yourself as a victim in a collective consciousness. You could possibly want things to be different, but you would never wish and hope for that.
Yeah.
You would understand that in a collective consciousness, your interest, your pre-birth intentions has cast you in a circumstance, a role, a way of living to manifest your pre-birth intentions without this illusion of other. The concept of oneness is still centered to the collective consciousness.
Mhm.
And it's an exploration to shift perspectives higher and higher. So to come into this is to explore the only true feeling of non-unity whatsoever.
Mhm.
That I am me, they are them, and they could harm me. In any situation where you perceive something outside of you is happening to you rather than a reflection of you, you are perceiving yourself a victim. And so we would say, in the greatest sense of this, that every human who's ever existed has experienced victimhood, meaning they perceive the outside conditions and people can make them feel something. They do not understand that their emotions and feelings are generated from their perspective.
Mhm.
This is a grand journey of perspective. The only thing that matters in this is, which is of interest to all, is perspective. Some come in just to sample the perspective of victimhood. Some come in, like you, to move that perspective, knowing that that is the energy that fuels the universe. In collective consciousness, you can imagine there is no massive shift in perspective in any individual life over one lifetime. There is a gradually shifting of consciousness over eons and eons of generations of those within the collective consciousness. It's a shifting of that collective consciousness. And so there is an energy to that, but it's like a deep rumbling energy compared to a lot of drum beats going on of all different pitches and musical instruments. And this is the symphony of perspective. This
Mhm.
is why you and every human who's ever existed has come to this environment to see what it's like to shift perspective individually,
Mhm.
to bring in new energy, and to generate energy for the rest of the universe, to aid humanity in coming together as one. It's important to understand the perspectives of that which is complete separation. And there's only one way to do that. It's to come here. And the life that you intended to live was to have this understanding of victimhood and understanding of creatorhood and moving from victim to creator in one lifetime. The massive shift in perspective you've had over the last few years has generated significant energy, but you can get caught up in that and lost in it as if it's important. And we want you to know that from the perspective of the non physical, where time is not a factor, that without that time factor, there is really no meaning to anything. It's just interesting. And there's a million different ways to do it. So if you take an example as Gary as a child, he would go on Halloween and collect pillowcases full of candy. He ate all his candy in one day, whereas other kids would eat their candy over the course of the entire year. And so there's two ways to enjoy your Halloween candy. One all at one time and one slowly over a millennia. But to do it all at one time is a non-awareness of the bigger picture. You can do it again and again and again and again and again, and you wouldn't want it to be over. So the day after, a couple of days after Halloween, when all the candy's gone, what's left? Another year of waiting. The only time that experience will happen again.
Mhm.
So for some, for most, it is this gradual shift of perspective over eons that's interesting. And for some, there's a quicker shift, but there is no immediacy or importance to any of it. It's just one way of doing it over another. And from this perspective, where you are, there's no way to perceive what an eon is like.
Mhm. Gotcha. Okay. Um,
So before a soul or oversoul gets to a collective consciousness, we do have incarnations on other planets besides Earth and such like that. Um, I have heard that on other planets there is separation. That there were wars. There were big wars between the Lyrians versus Draconians, different ET races, and they really got at it. Um, my question in tying that to Earth incarnation is that do souls incarnate in their opponents' species? I mean, do they have fight? Do Lyrians have fight with Draconians, and then the soul incarnates as the Draconians just to see what the other side feels like? And do we do that on Earth when there were wars on Earth between Lemurians and Atlantis? Did we switch souls and play different parts? And do we do that now when we're when we're Jewish and Nazis? I mean, do we switch souls to play other parts? I mean, is it that type of expansion just to see what the other side feels like?
From a physical human perspective, you know that you label this and that, me and mine, yours and theirs, ours, we, I, they.
Yeah.
It's an exploration of what is it like to feel separate.
Mm-hmm.
The mass of humanity has an interest that's similar, a vibration that's similar, and is drawn to this reality. The interest is perspective. The universal interest is always perspective. How can I have a perspective that expands my understanding?
Mm-hmm.
I could jump in here. Now, you wouldn't say, I want to jump in here. You would just simply say, the vibration of interest and perspective is strong within me.
Mm-hmm.
I have experienced this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And even not so specific, you might say, this is interesting to me now. And you set up your intentions pre-birth. You do a lot of careful collaborating with others and putting together your spirit guides and choosing the actual carefully thought out intention. And then when the stars align and everything's perfect, you are brought into a physical reality. So if you can imagine your one race, Lyrian, and you've had this experience and you return to the non-physical, gaining everything from that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, let's do it again. You aren't saying, I must be Lyrian again, or I shouldn't be Lyrian again. The Lyrian vibration would be within your overall vibration,
Mm-hmm.
but the interest in perspective is within that vibration as well. They are there together within the whole consciousness, and you are cast into the perfect place for you.
Mm-hmm.
So some may jump around to different ones. Some may stay in the same one their entire existence. It is what the vibration of that being is and what they intend to explore next. It's the interest.
Mm-hmm.
So the interest generates an intention, and the intention is thrown out into the universe, and the universe matches it perfectly with the life that would have the best opportunity to fulfill that intention. And it's always perfect.
Mm-hmm.
From dependent on the reality that's going into, there is some fear producing some separation. We should say some separation producing some fear, but it's not like this. It's a different kind of thing altogether.
Okay.
So there's a vibration of a race Lyrian and a vibration of a race X, and there could be some crossing over.
Yeah.
But that vibration is dependent on many other factors. How old the soul is, how long the soul's been, how many times it's doing it, what's the intentions, all those things.
Yeah.
So, in a broader term, every single thing that you can imagine is absolutely possible
Yeah. Okay.
and done.
Okay. And there's no judgment to it. I mean, just because the Draconians attack the Larians, that's not good or bad, right? I mean, even though we would think that, oh, that's evil, you attack the other planet and you try to kill that race. It's not, everything is neutral, so there's no judgment about incarnating into a Draconian versus a Larian.
There's a story of someone who went undercover in the KKK. And his previous intention was these people are bad, these people are wrong. They should be different than they are.
Yeah.
And what he found was they were simply belonging to a group. His perspective prior to this was wrong and bad. But once he was in the group, he realized they were just normal people moving along some ideology that brought them together. Gary was thinking earlier today that how nice the feeling of camaraderie is, how powerful it feels to be with a group of like-minded people. That feeling could not be possible without war, for instance, without comrades in arms.
Mm-hmm.
So there are experiences are made possible through what you would call conflict.
Mm-hmm.
What you want from a human is not what you want from a non-physical powerful entity because your perspective is limited. Mm-hmm. So the moment you say that should not be, or this would be better, mm-hmm. you're just doing it from a perspective that doesn't have all the information. Mm-hmm. When you are doing as you are doing is reaching for the highest perspective you can believe without any judgment, that is something that is commendable. That is thought of as a display of your shift in perspective. That is generally not possible for most of those who are in a limited perspective in the illusion of separation. You have shown that you have come above that. And so you're trying to piece together how everything could be right with remnants of limiting beliefs saying there is wrong, there is evil, there is bad. Mm-hmm. There's no need to justify anything. Just realize that some information you will not have until you return to the non-physical. Some information you'll just have to go on faith. But you have a mental construct. That mental construct is a wiring of your brain through experiences and beliefs, through emotions, through what you've experienced yourself and learned and what you've been taught, through desires based in fear and based in love. And so all of that is tangled together in there, and none of it can be taken away and put over here in the closet. It can be diminished so that it does not pop up as strongly, but it will always pop up. You have a limiting belief that you're not worthy, that you're not the creator of your reality. And those can be softened, but they will still be triggered. Yeah. There is nothing wrong with that being triggered. The idea is to say, oh, okay, I've had a dip in perspective. I am perceiving things inaccurately because it comes with negative emotion, and I have a belief system that's in place. How can I shift my perspective to the level of my beliefs? Not above it, not pretend that things are different than they are, but acknowledge the feelings and acknowledge the feelings of victimhood, which means that perception of wars in outer space causes a tiny dip in perspective.
Yeah.
And immediately the urge comes to change that. Well, how do you change wars in space? You say, oh, there must be something right with it. There must be something good about it. And that's still an urge to change the conditions. You see? Other than knowing there's balance in play. And the balance is shifting and sorting and moving everything around. And the balance is there to allow the exploration of the non-physical energy in a physical reality. So if you think about every other known species was a collective consciousness,
Yeah.
and that was explored, but there was a interest in exploring something deeper. And so, boom, the Earth is created,
Yeah.
a new realm of exploration.
Mhm.
And then there'll be other places created for those who want to go on to another way of seeing things, another perspective. But what's this idea of perspective anyway? If you think of God, source, as receiving the first thought, who am I? And what is the source of that thought? And then, boom, the universe is created so that source could see itself from infinite perspectives. And those infinite perspectives keep growing and growing and growing as the interest gets deeper. Till eventually, source realizes, I am love. And then, well, what could I become? What could I become not knowing who I am within this illusion of separation? And then all these other possibilities came forth from that question. So there is a big bang initially, and another one, and creation, 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 and it's never ending.
Mhm.
To make sense of it from a limited perspective, where you have, frankly, no actual knowledge, only beliefs.
Mhm.
What are you here to explore without worrying about anything outside of you? You're here to explore what's inside of you in reaction to what's been created by you.
Mhm.
So you have a mental construct,
Yep.
a set of beliefs, and you are doing the work to shift that overall construct from limiting to empowering. And as you do, you produce new realities from a new perspective, just like source. So you're constantly creating a new reality to see a new perspective based on the intentions you brought in with you in this reality. So can you remember those intentions? What do you think those intentions were? Given the life that you've lived and where you see yourself now, what do you think you came to explore in this incarnation?
Okay. It's what you just said. It's the polarity going from beginning of very harsh circumstances to right now I'm living in joy and just having a good time. Um,
So if you came from what we would call, in your case, a perspective so limited that you thought what? What was the most limited perspective you've ever had in your life?
that I'm gonna just work and die and suffer.
Why?
Because that's what life is about. That's what the
It
existence of Earth
is,
is.
and that's for everyone.
That was for everyone born into my circumstance.
Who else was born in your circumstance?
My siblings, my parents.
Well, your parents were born into a different circumstance.
Yeah,
Your siblings were born into a different circumstance.
yeah,
No one was born into your circumstance.
true, true. Yeah.
So you had to say to yourself, in a victim,
Hmm.
from the victim perspective, what did you think about yourself that you are being treated this way?
I thought I was worthless. I mean, I
Good.
thought it was like
And
that's just
so,
me. Yeah,
if you were going to have a full experience of
yeah.
the spectrum of perspective, if you come to say, I am worthless, what would the fruition of that journey from I am worthless be? What would be the other end of that polarity?
I am everything. I am me. I am a fractal source. I am everything. I am worth everything in the universe.
When you say, I am everything, what are you really saying?
I mean, on a personality level, or I know I am everything. I am a fractal source. We are all one, and we're all a fractal source.
So when you say I am everything, what you're really saying is
I am
I am
nothing too.
I
I
am
am,
I am everyone.
yeah,
So you're going from I am no one,
yeah,
completely separate,
yeah,
completely alone,
yeah.
to I am everyone.
True.
That's the perspective
Yeah,
that would be something that you'd be very interested in exploring.
yeah.
How do you think you're doing so far?
I'm getting there. I mean, a year ago that concept would not have dinged, but right now it's like I know it's true. I just got to feel it more, but I know it's true. Sometimes when I see the beggar on the street, I see that is me. When I see the rich cat driving around fancy cars, that's me too. So I am everything. I kind of know that.
If you can imagine existing in the I am nothing perspective, what were you feeling most of the time?
Separation.
And how did you interpret separation from that young child?
Uh, just negative feelings, just negative vibes. I mean,
Every
doomed.
everything is happening to me.
Yeah, a victim.
So your interpretation of everything was it was happening to you,
Yeah,
and it should be different than it is.
yeah,
So realize that that's part of your experience, half of your life of experience.
yeah.
Now imagine what your experience would be on the opposite end of that polarity. If your experience is everything is happening to me, what would your experience be on the highest level of this polarity?
Everything's happening for me, which I'm pretty much there.
And so, from that perspective, how do you think you're doing?
I think I'm doing pretty great.
You're doing amazingly. So, can you think of any other historical figure, anyone else that is celebrated who has done what you've done?
No, I never thought of it that way, but I can't. I mean, just because I know how far I've come, and it is amazing. It is shocking.
Would you be surprised if after you're gone, they would tell stories of you and write about you and recognize you?
Yeah, I would be surprised, but maybe that's a limiting belief. But yeah, I don't quite think of myself that way. But yeah,
This is what we're saying. This is what perspective is.
yeah,
Perspective is how you think about yourself in your reality.
yeah,
And so, one who has had the experience of everything is happening to me and is moving to everything's happening for me, the little times where you drop your perspective and feel negative emotion, it's just like lifting weights.
yeah,
It's the exact same thing. And you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
yeah,
So just know that you're perfectly on your path, exactly where you want to go.
yeah.
And in the experience of everything's happening to me, was there a lot of humor?
No.
And in the experience of everything's happening for me, will there be a lot of humor?
Oh yeah, everything is humorous now.
In the experience of everything's happening to me, was there a lot of seriousness?
Yes,
And in the experience of everything's happening for me, is there any seriousness?
absolutely none.
In the experience of everything's happening to me, was there a great need to change everything outside of you?
Yes.
And in the experience of everything happening for me, is there any need to change anything outside of you?
Nope, you just let it flow to you and just let it happen.
So, where do you go from here?
You just expand and just be more accepting, just more of letting it flow to you, and just more of joy in following your joy and being happy.
What is happiness from the perspective of everything's happening to me?
Um, Experiencing the here and now and not getting lost in the past or the future, and just let it happen to you, just let it flow to you. And
From the experience of I am worthless, everything's happening to me.
yeah,
What would that person perceive as happiness
death.
when everything outside of them changes?
Yeah, yeah,
When they can fix every little thing that's wrong,
correct.
when they can change the conditions to get out of their situation.
Yeah,
From the perspective of everything's happening for me, I am everything.
yeah.
What would happiness be?
Happiness, I think, is just enjoy the ride. You're on the ride, and you just gotta enjoy it, whatever comes before you.
From the context of I am worthless, everything's happening to me, and in order to gain happiness, I have to control and change everything out there.
Yeah,
To the other end of that polarity, everything's happening for me. I am everything and everyone.
yeah.
What would bring happiness?
Just knowledge of who you truly are.
Seeing the perfection of every moment. Since
Yeah,
the opposite of that would be changing everything, including the past, present, and future,
yeah,
changing the outside conditions, the perception of past, present, future, the perception of other, the perception of wrong and bad, the perception
yes,
that things should be different than they are, to moving to that other polarity, seeing the perfection of everything in this moment,
yeah,
seeing the perfection of everything in the past,
yep,
knowing the perfection of everything, how it will unfold,
yep,
understanding the perfection of you in this journey and the life that you chose for you, not wanting any of it to be different than it is,
yeah,
and knowing that in that centered point where your finger is holding up, balancing the ruler,
yeah,
with a focus on that center point, that one minute point,
yeah,
focus, direct focus on the perfection of the fingertip touching the ruler and
yeah,
allowing everything else to balance perfectly. This would bring what you term happiness,
yeah,
seeing the perfection of that. However, that ruler, because you have lived that life, experienced that life, built up mental construct that's softened, 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 but still there. That ruler is going to tip. Your work is to be focused on the center without moving. Hold on to that center, focus on that center, and let everything around you, wars in space, politics, other people's opinions,
yeah,
other people needing your help,
yeah,
all of that stuff, that's not your business. Your business is laser focus
yeah,
on that center neutral point. Knowing that from that energy of that focus on that center neutral point, you will create conditions beyond your wildest imagination, the unimaginable. And then notice the unimaginable. And then notice that you created the unimaginable. How on earth did you get to lie in a sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid and bring in light codes? How did you manage to make your way over to China with this family and bring everyone together? The unimaginable is happening. Acknowledge that you're responsible for creating the unimaginable based in what? Not effort, not struggle, not planning, not wishing, not hoping, but holding focus on that point of balance, that everything will work out. Things will have to shift.
Yeah.
Things will have to move. The ruler is going to go up and down and up and down and up and down, but it's not going to fall off.
Yeah.
Because when it goes down, it's not you moving so the ruler balances.
Yeah.
It's you knowing that the universe is a system based in balance.
Mhm.
And when those who die in a war
Yeah.
make room for those who are ready to come in, because
Gotcha.
there is a waiting list to get here and everywhere else. There is no difference between living to 100 years old
Yeah.
and spending the last 10 years in cancer treatment
Mhm.
or dying on the battlefield. It's perfect for each person, each soul.
Correct.
Everyone is getting what they want. There are those who need experiences that one government cannot provide. And so another government has to come in to provide those experiences for what they want. Some want great victimhood. Some want salvation. Some want someone they can look up to. Some want all kinds of things. There's so many possibilities going on here that you can't know. So what can you know? You can know, to the best of your beliefs, that by you being centered, you hold space for the entire population. Your journey from fear to love, massive shift in perspective, is for you. It doesn't have to be shared with anyone else on earth, because the energy of that shift in perspective does more to affect change, the positive change that you want to see, than any single effort by any individual, group, or the mass consciousness. There is more power in your personal shift and holding that point of focus than anyone who's ever lived before. You can't see it is the only problem. You can't get credit for it is the only problem. You can't get paid for it is the only problem. But wait to see what comes. Unimaginable. How many people have brought in light codes in the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid?
Yeah.
Only you. Unimaginable.
Yeah. Excellent. I mean, this is actually a great segue to my next question, which is, in 2025, I really foresee that this is going to be a great year of change, but it's going to be a great year. I actually kind of feel like I'm supposed to, or I want to go to sacred spots on Earth and do energy work on the ley lines and open vortexes and, for dragons, and to help do, order, ritual, and ceremony in certain sacred parts that to help the Earth, knowing that Gaia doesn't need my help, but I'm just doing it to have fun. So is that part of what you're saying, in that I should just follow my intuition, whatever makes I think it's fun, where it's helping the Earth or staying at home, whatever it is that's what I'm called to do? Can you speak more on that, or should I go to specific places on Earth that you recommend?
If you hold your focus in neutrality on the center,
Yeah,
there's no wrong anywhere in the universe.
correct.
from that neutral place, you're in alignment.
Mhm.
You're in a love state of being.
Yeah.
In a love state of being, you get inspiration.
Mhm.
Does that feel like inspiration to you? Or does it feel like effort and struggle to fix a problem that seems overwhelming?
Mhm.
Which of those would you say it is? An
Oh,
urge to
definitely.
change conditions.
Yeah, for me, that's inspiration. I mean, to me, it's
So
all.
if you can judge, if you can determine that something's inspiration,
Yeah.
right? Then there's nothing you have to do other than take the first action step.
Mhm.
So what would the first action step be in that inspired idea?
Just see if opportunities and synchronicities line up to point me in that direction. So if there's an offering to go to a sacred site or a group that's going, it would pique my interest, and based off of that, I would investigate it more.
So you'd have to wait for something outside of you to happen.
Oh, that's true.
What would be the action step that you could take in the moment based on that inspired idea?
I can do research. I can look up and see what's happening at various sites and see what
You
possible.
could channel a list of sites,
Okay. Yeah.
and then you could look at those sites and see which one lights up for you,
Yeah.
and then dive into research. But that's exactly the process.
Yeah.
Maintain that everything is right. There's no wrong anywhere in the universe. There's nothing you have to do to fix or change anything. That everything is working itself out and is in balance, and that you have the inspired idea to go and bring energy to certain locations or receive energy from certain locations or back and forth, which is what it always is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, you do what you're inspired to do. To wait is fine, but there's no reason to wait if all you're doing is writing down a list and doing a little research on the internet, because one thing will lead to another thing, will lead to another thing, will lead to another thing.
Yeah.
The experience will always have information. When the information or experience is seen as perfect, the information will be gleaned. You'll understand it. You'll get the information. Most of the time, there's information in the experience of manifestation events that bring up negative emotion. But those who are experiencing the negative emotion are in a state of fear, and they don't easily get the information that's in there. In inspiration, you are led into an experience. You are led to make a decision from the perspective that you're at the moment. You can shift your perspective to access higher quality choices, decisions, and actions. Once you've made the decision, you see that as perfect, that that was the decision. You don't second guess it. You don't judge it. You don't wish things were different. You don't hope that something else happens. You don't regret it. You say, that was the perfect decision. I am now in a new place and a new perspective. You have the experience, and you know the experience must be perfect, must be set up for you. You look at it from the highest perspective you can believe. You understand that it could not be there had you not created it, even though this was on the books and there's thousands of people of coming and everyone's going to be there anyway. You have to understand that you created this experience that is for you, that the whole thing is for you. You've gotten to a place where it's right there for you to step into. No matter what happens in that experience, whether there's a manifestation event like there were a few in Egypt, all of those are there to show you things that are still remnants of that person who was worthless. Showing you those things still exist that you cannot see. And you want to see those things. And so manifestation events show up to point out that, oh, this thing happened and I dropped my perspective. Why? Because there's a vibration in there, a belief vibration that's churning still of limitation. To move from I am worthless to I am everything requires softening limitations along the way. This work, as you go forward, will make you even more sensitive than you already are, so that you notice the tiniest little dips in perspective when you are not focused on that center finger point. You see?
Mm-hmm.
This is the practice. This is the weightlifting that you want to do. Get stronger and stronger in that focus of neutrality. And when you say, oh, this will be great, realize you're making it up. Realize that that energy of excitement is generated from a outside conditions are going to make me feel something.
Mm-hmm.
That as you get centered and centered and centered and centered, you get calmer and peaceful and more focused. You get more sensitive and you get more powerful. So that what you came to do will emerge. Gary says that tattoo emerged, was always there, but emerged once he reached a certain perspective. Things will emerge based in the perspective that you're able to reach. And you don't have to plan anything. You don't have to say that would be nice or that would be nice or that would be nice or have preferences or anything. Just focus on that center point of neutrality and notice the inspired ideas emerging.
Mm-hmm.
Then take the action. Take the action step that you can take in that moment. If you wait for things to come to you, which they will,
Yeah.
it's going to take a little longer.
Okay.
The more experience that you have as the ambassador, the more you can bring back. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You've already explored the separation part. You've already explored the wrong, the can't, the no, the should. You want to have many, many, many experiences in the will and can and good and right and perfect and neutral. And so the more experiences that you have, the more research you're doing for your role as ambassador in other dimensions.
Excellent.
Imagine the powerful being
Mm-hmm.
that would come here and have the life that you've had to expand the understanding of the human perspective. Most who do this only learn what you would say from your perspective, the limited side, because the limited side is not available in the non-physical. But to explore the full spectrum in one lifetime,
Mhm.
that brings a expansion that will go on to serve you in your role of serving others.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I got one last quick question. And I actually think you already just answered it, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. In last year's retreat, Orlando retreat, which is about a year ago, Gary said something to me that shocked, confused, and delighted and embarrassed me. He said, "You are the most perfect person on earth." Can you elaborate on that? What Gary meant about that?
Is there any doubt to that?
uh, yeah, my human self still has very limiting beliefs, and you know,
After this conversation about perspective,
yeah, yeah.
the limited perspective is I am worthless. What would the highest perspective be?
I am everything. I am not worthless. I am
If the perspective is I am worthless, why would that perspective exist? The perspective of that person in their reality would be I am imperfect. I am flawed. The opposite of that polarity would be what?
perfect. Gotcha.
It was a breadcrumb along the path.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can see that the outside conditions are perfect,
hmm
well, then where do those outside conditions come from?
For me,
And since they're perfect, they're generated by one who is also
perfect.
can't be any other way.
Nope, can't be.
If You're perfect. Who else is perfect?
Everyone,
Including
the people I don't like,
including
myself.
including
Uh, everything is perfect. Yeah, everything.
even the Lyrians,
Even the Larians, even
even
the Draconians who killed them.
even all of it's perfect. How about source itself?
Perfect.
So if this is a reflection of source
Yeah.
and source is perfect,
Right.
what is this?
Perfect.
Has to be. There is no other possibility. It
Correct.
cannot be any other way.
Correct.
And the only thing is you're viewing it from a perspective.
Yeah.
You can choose a perspective to view it from imperfection, to
Mhm.
view it from perfection.
Mhm.
In the non-physical, you'll view it from perfection. In physical, you'll view it as imperfect.
Yeah.
But imagine being a human coming from seeing it as imperfect to perfect.
Yeah.
What would that be like? That has never been tried before.
Ah.
Well, we'll say it's been tried, but it's never been achieved before.
Yeah.
It's been tried with every single life,
Yeah.
but it's never been achieved.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, for me right now, the moral to the story is balance, perfection. Right?
No matter how it's tipping and turving,
Yeah.
as long as
It's
you're focused and don't move,
yeah. It's
it's
perfect.
balancing.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks like it's going all over the place and it should be
Yeah.
just straight,
Yeah.
but that'd be no fun. It
Correct.
has
Correct.
to go like this to give everyone what they need, what they want, what their
Yeah.
intentions for.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've enjoyed this conversation immensely. We think you're doing pretty good.
I think I'm doing perfectly.
And with that, we are complete.
Thank you, Gary. Joshua.